So a few guys from TeamBeyond.net recently did a poll amongst the current HCS pro players. Now, 34 pro players took part in the poll, which is almost all of them, if not most, of the current HCS pro players. And this poll was about the game itself, the balancing and some of the mechanics within the game, and whether they fit into competitive Halo or not. Now, these guys were asked 7 questions in total. I will run through all of them and their answers, and there will hopefully be some nice little things on screen showing the answers to the questions. Now, obviously there are no specifics here, there's no who said what, there's just percentages of players that said certain things. So I assume they were handed a multiple choice questionnaire, and they just selected options from that. I don't know in detail what the poll looked like or anything like that. I can only assume it was a Google Forms or something like that. That would make the most sense to me. So question 1 was, are the current Halo 5 HCS settings as competitive as they could be? The first answer was, yes, the current settings are the pinnacle of competitive Halo 5. The second option was, no, the current competitive settings are holding Halo 5 back. And then the third option was, the current settings are good, but we need to make a few adjustments. Now, as you can see on screen, nobody out of the 34 pro players that were asked thought that the settings for Halo 5's HCS were as good as they could be. Half of them thought that the settings were awful and they were holding the game back. And the other half thought that they were good, but needed to make a few adjustments. Now, I personally, after watching a lot of the HCS, find that the games can be quite uninteresting, at least as far as the game types go, because all they have is Slayer, Strongholds, and Flag. You very rarely see Assault or anything like that in there, and it's sort of a shame that a lot of the more classic game modes that, well, haven't even made their way into the game yet, like Oddball and things like that, aren't being played because they are the classic Halo game modes. Of course, CTF and Slayer need to be in there, but in my opinion, Strongholds is just domination from Call of Duty, and we've seen that for ages, and there's a reason that domination from Call of Duty doesn't get played in professional tournaments, because 1, it's not that interesting to watch, and 2, it's not a great gauge of skill. It's a gauge of map control, which some will argue is an important skill, and I won't deny that it's important. But it doesn't show the skills of the players. It doesn't show how they can react in clutch situations, and in situations where they're so far ahead they don't have to worry. I think that's the reason why Search and Destroy is used in Call of Duty's competitive scene so much. Because it is the clutch game mode. It's similar to Counter-Strike, where it can really show off the player's skills. And I don't think a lot of the Halo game types really do that. Now, my input would be, perhaps have Breakout in there. Could you imagine watching HCS teams play Breakout? Not so much the new Breakout, but the old Breakout? That would be insane! Teams could have tactics, teams could plan strategies. You could watch the players in these clutch situations. It can build tension and momentum and all around audience hype. I don't like to use the term hype for this sort of thing, but if you've watched Counter-Strike, if you've watched Call of Duty, when there's 1 person versus 3 people and they've got to, defuse a bomb or whatever, it can get crazy. And if the player manages to do that, then it's insane. The crowd goes wild, people love it, it's fun to watch. It gets your heart racing, gets your hands shaking, and it's what esports should be. At the moment, to me, Halo esports isn't that interesting to watch. And I've watched my fair share of it. I've even been going back and watching the reruns from Halo 3's MOGs and things like that. And my god, the level of hype in the Halo 3 tournaments compared to the Halo 5 tournaments is unreal. Anyway, on to question 2. Should radar be enabled in the HCS settings? Now this one won by a landslide, but answer number 1 was yes, radar works well in Halo 5 esports and should remain enabled. The second answer was No, radar has no place in Halo 5 esports and should be disabled. Now a massive 82.4% voted no, that radar should be removed from Halo 5. And to me that makes sense, because while the radar can be useful, it can also be sort of a cheat, really. You can see people moving through walls and things like that. If they opted for, and I know I keep bringing this back up, but a Counter-Strike approach where the radar can be useful for your teammates to gain information on what you have seen, then it helps aid team communication, which especially in a clutch situation or a really crazy situation could help your team out massively. Now, that's just my opinion, but the pros seem to dislike it. The pros seem to think that radar shouldn't be in Halo 5 at all, at least in the esports scene. And I would agree with that. It would make the games a lot more interesting. It would make checking angles and checking corners and things and making the game a little more strategic than just run around the map and shoot people. You know, because that's the same thing that happens in Halo 5's pugs. And it sort of takes away a bit of the magic from the pro scene, whereas if you watch, say, Pro Overwatch or Pro League of Legends, they are worlds apart from the matchmaking you play. It's the same game type, it's very similar. There may be a few things tweaked here and there, they might be playing on different patches or different settings or whatever. But it just looks and feels so much different to standard gameplay that it creates a completely new experience for a player to watch and think, oh my god, that is amazing. Now, question 3 hits quite close to home for me, because I personally don't like the automatic weapons in Halo 5. The question reads, how do you feel about the state of automatic weapons in Halo 5? The 3 answers were, automatic weapons are balanced in their current state, automatic weapons do not belong in competitive Halo, and automatic weapons are too strong in their current state, with 50% of the players voting for the third option. Automatic weapons are too strong in their current state. And I think this shows, as you can feel when you're playing the game, that the assault rifle is ridiculous. The assault rifle is really strong for what should be, well, an automatic weapon that's not precise. It does so much damage that it removes viability from things like the pistol and the BR, where of course, if you've got the skill and can hit a perfect kill, then of course you're going to kill the guy with the AR quicker than he can kill you. But if you can't, or if you miss, or if you get shot first, if they have an AR and you have a precision weapon, they are almost guaranteed to kill you first. And that sort of upsets me, because at least in Halo 3 and Halo 2, it was focused on the precision weapons. They take more skill than just being able to spray and pray, and the AR at the moment feels like something out of Call of Duty. It feels like running around the map with, say, an ACR in Modern Warfare 2, you know? Just let bullets loose and be done. Now, I know the time to kill is a lot longer than in Call of Duty, but even still, when a weapon can be considered overpowered compared to what should be the skill weapon of choice when it comes to a game, then you're not doing your balancing right. And that sort of annoys me, because I want Halo 5's multiplayer to be the best it can be, the most balanced it can be, the most enjoyable for everyone, where there is no overpowered weapon. I'm not saying the AR is ridiculously overpowered and everyone should start using it, but it's definitely up there with some of the more power weapons. On to question 4. Question 4 says, how do you feel about the current loadout weapons in Halo 5? There were 4 options to this question. They were, the loadout weapons in Halo 5 are perfectly balanced, the assault rifle is too powerful, both weapons need tuning, or the Magnum is too weak. Now, nobody voted for the Magnum is too weak, which I personally would disagree with, because I feel the Magnum should be a 4-shot kill. To put it in line with something like the BR, slow the fire rate down ever so slightly, make it much more similar to the BR, because that's what it seems to be trying to compete with. It seems to be trying to sit in the same ground as the DMR and the BR, when not smart scoped. The red reticle range is about the same, the bullet magnetism is about the same. other than the fact that the BR and the DMR seem to have a shorter time to kill. And that's what drew me to Big Team Battle, because you got the BR starts. I know a lot of people dislike the BR starts in Big Team Battle. I personally like them. I prefer the BR over the pistol or the DMR any day. Maybe it's just me because I've been a Halo 3 fanboy and I enjoy the BR. I enjoy the 3-round bursts. I enjoy the 2x scope and things like that. But in my opinion, it should be the starting weapon. We don't have Slayer BRs anymore. We don't have anything like that. We don't have Slayer DMRs or anything like that. Why can't we see those sorts of things added to competitive play? Because they would shake up the games a little. Players wouldn't just have to get proficient with the pistol or just proficient with the BR. They may have to learn all of them and practice all of them. And it would help vary the games up a little, because I swear every series I watch in Halo 5, as far as, like a best of 5, best of 7 or whatever, they all feel exactly the same because it's the same maps, the same game modes. The same game modes on the same maps. Like, it's always Fathom CTF. Always. You know? I think that we need some more variety in there. We need some different game modes, different maps. Maybe some even HCS specific Forge variants or something like that. Bring back some of the old MLG maps from Halo 3. They had some of the best CTF maps in the game at that point. On to question 5. Question 5 reads, how competitively viable do you find the current map/game type rotation? The first answer is, all maps/game types currently played in the HCS are balanced and competitive. The second is, a majority of the map/game types are good, but others need to be removed or tuned. And the third is, most of the maps or game types played in the HCS require fixing and tuning. And I'm sure to nobody's surprise at this point, the second option won by a landslide, getting 79.4% of the votes. This goes on with what I literally just said. I hadn't read the 5th question or reread the 5th question until I finished answering question 4 and didn't realise that it sort of carried on from what I was saying. But we need more maps. We need different maps. We need to make the game feel different every time you watch, even if you're only adding a few extra ones. Maybe add a few game types. Like I said, add Breakout. Could you imagine pros playing Breakout? My god, it would be so much fun to watch, in theory. Now, it may be crap in practice, but hell, do a test stream, maybe on a week off for the HCS. Have them play competitive Breakout. Make some competitive maps, a competitive Breakout game mode. It would be so interesting, in my opinion, to watch, because the teams have a lot more to think about, to plan. There's a lot more going on than there is just run around the map and shoot people. I know I've said it once, but I'm saying it again, because Halo doesn't seem to have that much strategy at the moment outside of timing power weapons. And I think Halo could do with a bit more strategy. I know I'm trying to bring Halo and Counter-Strike together, but they are two shooters that I love. And Counter-Strike has the biggest FPS esport in the world at the moment. Even with the whole skin thing gone, the esports is still massive. And if you've never watched professional Counter-Strike, I urge you to just go watch a match or two and watch how much coordination and strategy and thinking the teams have to do and reacting to how other teams are playing the game, rather than just running around capturing points and shooting people. I tell you now, it's infinitely more interesting to watch, in my opinion. On to question 6. This question reads, which league structure would you prefer in the HCS? There are 3 options. The online pro league with season LAN finals, developer-funded open LAN events, and a mix of online pro leagues and developer-funded open LAN events. Now, of course, the 3rd option won again, and I don't want to keep reiterating it, but that is how Halo 3 did it with the whole MLG system. They had online leagues that the teams would play through, and then they had the MLG events that players from those top caliber teams, and even smaller teams that could go in little free-for-all tournaments and things, they could all go together at one LAN event. they could meet each other, they play against each other. And in my opinion, it fostered the community nature that esports in Halo 3's era had. And it's something that I feel the HCS era of Halo esports doesn't really have, because the teams are either sat in their own homes playing, or they are on a stage away from the crowd, away from people that, you know, they could be playing against in free-for-alls, and they could be, you know, new scrim partners and things like that, and it feels like the pros are separated from the community. From what I've seen, on the stages, they're not allowed to come off the stages, they're not allowed to go into the crowd, talk to people, high-five people, sign things, that sort of thing. There's none of that. They come out of the back of the stage, they play their games, they go back in the back of the stage. And they don't have any real interaction with the people that are there to see them. Now, I don't think this is necessarily the team's fault, because most of the pros, if you watch them on Twitch, if you meet them in game somehow, they're all really nice and great people. They're all really cool people. They'll have a chat with you, they'll hang out with you, they're cool. But at these Microsoft-funded events, they seem to be sort of locked behind a glass like some sort of museum piece. And it all feels a little too forced. Everything feels a little too, we must make this a successful esport event. Nothing can go wrong. We can't have any variables outside of our control. And it takes away some of the life from the esports events, in my opinion. Now, I know this video is getting pretty long. There is one more question left to go through. I will give a few more final summaries, and then I will let you go about with your day. So question 7 is, which LAN Tournament Organizer would you prefer in the HCS? Now, as far as I'm aware, ESL have been running the current HCS. Correct me if I'm wrong. I will correct myself if I'm wrong too. But in this question, there are a multitude of answers. The first one being ESL, the second being Gfinity, the third being UMG, the fourth being MLG, the fifth being ESL Pro League Online plus MLG developer funded open LAN events, and the sixth being MLG Pro League Online and ESL developer funded LAN events. So, a rather large majority, well, 50% of the people who took part in the poll said MLG. And I think this harkens back to the Halo 3 days. I know I keep saying Halo 3, Halo 3, Halo 3, but Halo 3 and Halo 2 were the golden era of Halo esports. They were the most popular time for Halo to be played on stages, on people's screens. And I think we need to go back to that. They are really good at what they do. They were set up as an organization for pro gaming events around Halo. They built themselves off Halo. They moved to Call of Duty and things like that when Halo started dying down a fair bit with Reach, and, you know, nobody really wanted to watch competitive Halo Reach. At least, I know I wouldn't want to watch that. I don't think Reach is a competitive game. It's a very casual game. And that saddens me. But MLG were the OG Halo event hosters, and 343 now won't even give them a shot. 343 have the esports side of Halo so locked down, so under their control. They seem scared to give it to anybody else in case somebody else makes a better esports style for Halo than they do. And then they start getting all the money. It seems like the HCS was set up as nothing more than to make more money from Halo. It doesn't feel like it's got the love, the passion that Halo 3's esports did. And it's something that they are desperately missing, especially if they want to rekindle their terrible viewership. So I personally think that the HCS does need to change, and most of the pros, if not all of the pros, seem to think the same thing. That the HCS needs to be changed. They haven't given specifics on why, but they say that weapon balancing needs to be changed, maps and game modes need to be changed. And I think that if 343 can listen to this and proactively go out and ask people what they want to see in the HCS, it'll make it a lot more interesting. And by the way, if you guys want to see HCS Breakout, Let me know in the comment section below, because in my mind that is an absolutely amazing idea. I'm sure most of you will say it's crap, but I don't know. I personally would love to see super high tier players playing the most competitive and tactical game mode. It would be so interesting to me to see how those players react to things where they have to change their gameplay styles and things like that at a moment's notice. It would become less about timing power weapons and more about strategizing and synergizing. And that's where I'd like to see the HCS go. Thank you very much for watching. If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to leave a comment or a like. And remember, stay classy.